Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the U Talk Show, where we pontificate on matters of importance. And today we are continuing Justice Week, and we are asking how a part of the criminal justice system works, namely the courts. First, in a basic sense, how do courts work?
Slowly. I
Could you
realize that's a glib
elaborate?
answer, but I can actually. The courts work slowly because the court's function in a criminal justice matter is the finding of fact and the application of the law to a situation. And we have what is referred to as an adversarial trial system in Australia. And we have what is also referred to as the presumption of innocence, which we'll get to later. What this means, in fact, is that you are assumed when you enter the courtroom, even if you've been in a cell because the cops have locked you up, when you enter the courtroom, it is assumed that you are innocent. And the Director of Public Prosecutions, also known as the Crown, also known as the Crown Prosecution Service, their job is to explain to the court that you've done goofed. And your defense barrister's job is to argue to the court. Well, your defense barrister's job is to make the prosecution do their job, to say, no, that isn't good enough proof. I'm not convinced. Your Honor, you shouldn't be convinced either. Your Honor, did the prosecution pull that evidence out of a packet of Weet-Bix?
Okay.
Because the court holds the very heavy weight of determining whether there is a black mark on you, of determining in many cases whether or not you are going to jail for a long time. They have to be slow, deliberate, thorough. They have to ensure that no stone is left unturned in search of the truth. At least that's how it's meant to work when you read the textbooks and you watch Blue Heelers. It's not always as clean as that, but the court is a test of ideas. When we talk about a case, what
A test of ideas?
actually comes before the court is two cases: the prosecution's case against the accused and the defense's case against the prosecution.
But was that the test of ideas or more a test of, I guess you could say the test of validity. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that? I'm not entirely sure.
A test of which?
Of ideas.
Okay, so how to make this work? Okay, let's say I get pulled over by a police officer while I'm driving down the highway. They say that I was doing 130 kilometers an hour in 110 zone. Now, that is the allegation at that point. Let's say this actually goes to court. This is the allegation. The police officer may have judged that I was going too fast relative to traffic. They may have paced me in their car and trusted that their speedometer was a good indication of how fast I was moving. They may have used a speed radar device. Any of those things could be evidence. But for instance, let's say that they followed me in their car, and my defense barrister might say, do we have any proof that the speedometer in your car is more accurate than the speedometer in my client's car? They say, you have made this assertion, but you need to prove it. You need to convince the people in this courtroom. You need to convince the judge that what you are saying is true. There also are cases where the law is applied in a very weird way. If I am charged with an offense under a specific act, a defense barrister may bring a case saying that that's not what this act is for. That's not what this act is saying. This is not the right way to apply the law to an alleged crime. And in that case, even if I may have, in fact, done what is alleged, it may be determined that the law is insufficient to punish me for that action.
Interesting.
Sorry, I reminded this old lawyer's saying, if the law isn't on your side, pound the facts. If the facts aren't on your side, pound the law. If neither's on your side, pound the bench.
Sounds like advice for an aspiring lawyer.
It is.
Okay, interesting. So let's talk about the different kinds of court, because my understanding is like there's criminal court, there's family court, there's small claims court. How many different kinds of court are there? And
okay, so
there are a lot, aren't there?
no, that's not it. No. That division exists in some cases, not quite here. In New South Wales, which is my jurisdiction, we have the local courts, the district courts, and the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And those are empowered to handle matters of differing levels of severity. For instance, if you go to local court, I think it's $7,500 is the limit for a civil matter going before a local court. And this is why I specify this. We don't have different courts, different physical courts for different jobs. Though a court may put on the ticket a bunch of very similar matters in one day. So they may have a day where they are just hammering out the paperwork that's been brought in by DCJ with regards to like child safety.
Yeah, so almost in a way like different programs within a company or bureaucratic service, different service programs on different days, where they have, and the staff kind of prepare around the week for those particular days. Kind of like that?
It can be. The courts in Australia aren't quite formalized like that, but yes.
Okay.
Ultimately, we have the local court, district court, and Supreme Court in New South Wales, and at the federal level, we have the Jesus Christ, that is a lot of courts.
A whole bunch of courts at the federal level.
Okay, so family court is actually a federal court.
Really? That's
the Federal Circuit and Family Court.
At least it seems strange.
Was formed in 2021.
Oh. Interesting.
Sorry, I just quickly went to check that because it's a bit of an odd one.
Yeah.
But yeah. For federal matters, you have administrative appeals, you then have the Federal Circuit, the Federal Court, and the full court of the Federal Court. And you also have the High Court of Australia. So they themselves have said that the concept of a superior court has no ready application in Australia to federal courts. However, they are the superior court, so who knows?
What? Sounds like our court system is a bit of a hot mess, almost.
Well, it also there is an additional problem that in many issues, before you go to court, what would be a magistrate's court or a local court, or in Norfolk Island. If you're on Norfolk Island, I'm so sad that you have to deal with the fact that the system is completely different. They have the Court of Petty Sessions there, which is a very, very old-fashioned term. But before you get to that, you have the administrative review and civil administrative tribunals.
All right, so this is getting a little bit, I guess, much for me even. There's just this
Yeah,
so this it seems like there's a lot of
it's a
different
bit of a
kinds of
mess.
court,
So, like,
and it seems like it's almost like a massive Venn diagram with 100 circles.
no,
That
it's more like an Excel spreadsheet for any possible combination of things you want sorted.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
that at least makes some sense, you know.
okay, so how the courts work, other than slowly, is that there is a local court that handles small matters. Full disclosure, I have been before a local court before for a traffic offence. There
And there are
is
also
a
state courts and
district
there's
court
federal
that
courts.
yes,
So okay,
yes.
so there are courts essentially
There
that are at each level of. I take it they cover, I guess, in civil proceedings, the same thing, or at least kind of the same things that the parliaments at those levels of governments, or I guess local council for local government,
no,
they don't cover those.
no, not really. I'll finish. I'll finish this. I'll make it as simple as I can. You
Okay,
have your local courts where relatively minor criminal matters and relatively minor civil matters are handled. You might think of the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony in some countries. We don't really have the same difference in that way, but your misdemeanor, you know, small things, spitting on the sidewalk, being caught with an eighth of weed, you know, that sort of stuff, local court for you. You have your district courts, which handle larger matters. For instance, cases involving a lot of money in civil and murder. Murder usually goes before a district court.
okay, districts.
It's kind of big. Districts are
District
still
as
state
in
courts,
okay. So
but so you have to understand that the thing is that unless you are in the no, even in the ACT, we have local courts, and district court doesn't exist in the ACT. Your next step up is the Supreme Court. But this is all state-based stuff because co-equal with your Supreme Court in the state is sort of your first level of the federal judiciary, which is your federal circuit and family court, and then the federal court. You are not going to see either of those things unless you have, I don't know, been spying for the French or something.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like there's local court, which basically handles local matters of small amounts of value. Correct? More or less?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's
it's a magistrate's
districts.
court.
Yeah, and then there's district courts, which are at the state
Yep.
level,
Which is
handle
referred
sort
to
of
as county court in Victoria.
yeah, referred to as county court. Jesus, we need to standardize all this. Okay, so
I know, right?
So there are the local courts, there are the state level courts, and there are the federal level courts. And it seems like it's the amount of value and or seriousness of the matter being discussed that determines which one that you're in.
Yep, with one notable exception. You
And
also have the Court of Appeal in everywhere, and the Court of Criminal Appeal, specifically in New South Wales, Northern Territory, South Australia, and Tasmania.
Okay.
And those are superior courts. They have what is referred to as appellate jurisdiction. If you think that a lower court has decided unfairly, if you think that they have been wrong as a matter of procedure, as a matter of the law, as a matter of the facts, that is
so
who
they
you
can
go
override
to.
it. So
Yes.
so they're the only courts with the power of sort of override that, correct?
No, no, no.
No,
The Supreme Court, the
can
Supreme
override things
Court
as well.
can theoretically overrule a district court or local court magistrate's court finding.
Okay, can a district court overrule a
Or-
local court? Yeah, we need some serious
I'd need to
judicial
talk to a
reform.
lawyer. I don't I don't actually think I think that theoretically they could. I think that theoretically they could. However, in practice, they are highly unlikely to do so because a matter decided at the magistrate's court would go to a court of appeal or the Supreme Court.
Okay. So theoretically, it seems like theoretically they could, but they wouldn't do it because it's basically sent off in another direction.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
It's above
okay.
their
So
pay grade.
I think I might be getting this. So we have local courts deals with matters
It's clear
of
as mud, right?
low level matters.
Mhm.
Local court
Yep.
deals with, then we have district courts or basically state level courts, which deals with sort of, a big step up those matters, in terms of value and or
Mhm.
seriousness. And then we have like the federal level courts, which
We have the Supreme
essentially
Courts.
another
You forgot about the
magnitude.
state Supreme Courts.
Right, state Supreme Courts, which are like the highest level of court in the states.
Except for the courts of appeal in the state,
Except for
which
the courts of
are,
appeal.
for legal purposes, a higher level again.
Okay. I see why lawyers are paid a lot. Okay, so let's take this from the top in the last minute that we have as part of the time. So we have local courts deals with sort of low level matters of matters of financial or seriousness, low level. Then the state courts, which is a sort of one magnitude higher in terms of seriousness.
Yep, that's your district
and
courts.
or financial, and those are called district courts, except in Victoria where they're called county courts because Victoria
Yes.
needs to be different. Wouldn't be the first time for Victoria.
Okay, so no, in fairness,
hold on,
our
hold on,
local
hold on.
courts, local courts is specific to New
Let-
South Wales. Everyone else calls them magistrates' court.
Oh wow, so we're all trying to be different.
So we're being a little bit different too. Just saying.
Yeah. Okay. So local courts, magnitude 1, offenses and civil proceedings. District or basically state level courts, magnitude 2 proceedings of, seriousness or financial incurrences, for lack of a better term. Then
Yep.
there's the Supreme Courts, just above those within the same
Yep.
magnitude. But then there's the appeals courts, which are in the same magnitude, but just one step above them, because they can also overturn their decisions, the Supreme Court's decisions in each state.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Court of Appeals. And then we have the federal level, which is the next magnitude up of seriousness and or monetary, I guess, occurrences.
No.
For lack of a better term.
No, that's the
No?
problem. Federal courts specifically deal with matters in federal jurisdiction or matters relating to how the judicial system works.
Define federal jurisdiction.
I mean, if you are selling nuclear secrets to the French, that is not a crime against your state. That is a crime against the Commonwealth of Australia. You are going to federal court for an espionage case.
But are there no
if you have a crime that is crossing state lines, the federal court can get involved. Civil proceedings. If you are suing the federal government for something, which has happened before, that would go before the federal court, yes.
But person-to-person proceedings, it would not. Like, say if...
As long as they're both in the same state.
But if they're both in different states? It might see the federal courts?
Then they would either agree... they would agree on a state jurisdiction, or they would ask for leave to have it decided by the federal court.
Okay. So the federal
But
courts
so
usually
the
deal
robo-debt thing, right?
Yeah. All right.
The
We've run
robo-debt
out of
thing.
time
There's
here, but
currently a civil
I think I've
suit.
got that.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
currently a civil suit happening against the federal government in relation to that. That is a civil matter that is decided in the federal court.
Yeah. And then there's the federal Supreme Court, which cannot
The
overrule
the full court.
That can overrule basically every other court, right? If the matter is put before them,
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there a court of appeals?
You have the
above
federal
that?
court. Yes. Okay, so I'm getting this real quick. We have the federal court, we have the full court of the federal court, and then we have the high court. The high court is where you will go for appeals in the if you cannot get the full court of the federal court and you want to go all the way to the top, the high court is where it's at. They are the wedge-tailed eagle looking down on the paratroopers that are the lower courts and going, ah!
Okay. So to very quickly summarize this, local courts, magnitude 1 situations. State level courts, magnitude 2 or
district
higher.
courts.
Yeah, but they're all state level courts, right?
Okay, but yeah, let's define this as petty versus serious crimes and small versus sizable claims.
I'm trying to summarize this for the audience here. Are all district courts state level essentially?
Yes. All district courts
good.
are state level.
Okay, then I think I can summarize this. So local courts, magnitude 1 situations to be determined. State level courts, magnitude 2 situations to be determined, or higher than magnitude 2. However, that is unless it falls under the federal jurisdiction, which is certain crimes and certain civil cases, usually involving the government or people from different states. Within each of those two, I guess, jurisdictions, there is also a Supreme Court and a Court of Appeals.
There is not a Court of Appeals in the federal jurisdiction.
Not in
only
the
High
jurisdiction. Court. High Court, which is basically the Supreme Court, or that we call the High Court of Australia.
No, it's the High Court. You have the federal court, you have the full court of the federal court, which is all of them. I really should not call the judges all of the motherfuckers, and yet here I am. And if that doesn't work, you go to the High Court.
Yeah, okay. So
usually.
Yeah, each one of them. So basically, there's like 3 tiers. One deals with magnitude 1 situations. One deals with magnitude 2 or higher, unless its jurisdiction falls in the third, which is the federal level. And both the second and third, so the state level and the federal level, have multiple courts within them, which have a hierarchy of who can overrule each other.
Yes, that is correct.
Beautiful. I get it now.
However, I will just quickly point out that in terms of overruling. No. It's okay. Just one other thing. One more thing. All
right.
It is less often that courts overrule each other and more that they refer to each other on precedent. And where a court is in the hierarchy is it determines how seriously a judge needs to take what they've said in the past.
Okay,
that's
fair enough. We've run a fair bit over time now, so we're going to leave it at that, because that at least makes sense, and I think the audience will understand. Thank you for watching. We hope you were able to get through all of that, and we hope that you got less confused than I did. Take care. Have a good one.
Okay, have a good one.